You guys, I need to vent. Like full-on emotional purge kind of vent. 'Cause even now, months later, I still get this sour taste in my mouth every time I think about what happened. And it always starts with the same stupid sentence that echoed in my head that night. It's just money, sweetie. Family comes first. That's what my mom said to me, word for word, after I found out they had drained my entire college fund, the fund I've been counting on for years, just to throw my brother the kind of wedding you'd see on a celebrity gossip page. And my favorite part, I wasn't even invited. So let me back up. I'm 19, was supposed to start college this fall, and I was actually excited. I had gotten into my dream school, not Ivy level or anything wild, but a solid state university with a great design program, the kind where they let you dig your hands into actual studio work from the jump. I had plans, a vision board, Pinterest pins for dorm ideas. It was finally happening. And most importantly, I had a college fund, a nice chunk of money my grandparents had started putting away for me when I was little. My parents had access to it, but it was always mine. It was in my name. My grandma used to call it your golden ticket. Well, turns out someone else cashed that ticket. The first red flag? My brother announcing out of the blue that he and his girlfriend, fiancé, whatever, were planning a formal wedding weekend in Aspen. Aspen? Mind you, neither of them had real jobs. My brother, Ethan, is 26, lives at home half the time, and freelances as a video editor, which means he makes TikToks for small businesses and spends the rest of his time complaining about algorithms. His fiancée, Maddie, works at a boutique and sells clean living essential oil kits on Instagram. I thought it was a joke at first. Like, haha, they're planning a Pinterest dream wedding with what? Monopoly money? But my parents were ecstatic. Suddenly, every conversation in the house was about custom linen invitations, tasting menus, suit fittings, and choreographed first dances. They were calling it the wedding of the decade. I was trying to be happy for them, I really was. Even though Maddie once told me I should smile more because my resting face gave people anxiety. Anyway, fast forward a few weeks. I was starting to get nervous because I hadn't heard anything from the financial aid office about my tuition bill being paid. It was supposed to be automatic, that's what my mom always said. So I emailed the office just in case. And then I got the reply that changed everything. As of now, we've received no payment or verification of a college savings account on file. Your account has an outstanding balance of $18,400 for fall semester. Please arrange payment or contact your financial sponsor immediately. I read that email like 6 times, thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it got lost in the system. So I did the dumbest thing imaginable. I walked into the kitchen and asked my mom. She was at the table flipping through wedding vendor brochures with this glazed, wedding planning zombie look on her face. And I said super casually, "Hey, I just got an email from school saying they haven't received the tuition yet. Wasn't the college fund supposed to cover that? You guys." She looked at me like I just asked if we still had dial-up internet. Then she said, "Oh, we had to dip into that a little for the wedding." A little. I honestly thought I misheard her. Like my brain had just glitched out for a second. So I said, "Wait, what do you mean by dip into?" She sighed like I was being dramatic and said, "Ethan needed help and this wedding is important for our family's image. It's not like the money's gone forever." Gone forever? The fund was almost 20 grand. I asked how much they used. She didn't even look up when she said, "All of it." I swear to you, I forgot how to breathe for a second. I sat down so hard in the chair I knocked over a water bottle. My dad came in from the living room and tried to play peacekeeper like, "Don't make a scene, honey. We'll figure something out." No, they wouldn't, 'cause I already knew what that meant. "We'll figure something out" meant you figure it out alone. That night, I went to my room and just sat on my bed in complete silence. I stared at my acceptance packet on the desk, my class schedule, my little sketchbook with dorm decor ideas and notes from orientation, and all I kept thinking was, how? How do you choose a champagne fountain over your own kid's education? They stole my future without even asking. And here's the cherry on top. I didn't even get a wedding invite. When I brought it up the next day, my mom actually said, "Well, you didn't seem excited about the wedding, so we thought it might be better if you sat this one out." Excuse me? Like, is it a dodgeball game or something? The next 48 hours after that conversation were a blur. I was sitting in my room, staring at my half-packed suitcase, while downstairs my parents were gushing over cake samples and Instagramming Maddie's bridal try-on session like everything was just peachy. Meanwhile, my entire fall semester tuition was unpaid. Dorm fees? Unpaid. Meal plan? Unpaid. My future? On life support. I spent hours that night spiraling through every scenario. Could I defer a semester? Could I crash on someone's couch and work 2 jobs until spring? Would it even be possible to claw my way back after being derailed like this? Then, around 1 a.m., I did something kind of stupid but also kind of necessary. I opened my notes app and started typing out every dollar they spent on this wedding. Based on the little comments I'd overheard and Maddie's endless IG posts, I figured. Venue, $7,000. Aspen Mountain Lodge with natural wood beams and a chandelier made of antlers. Catering, $5,500. Menu featured lobster mac and cheese because of course it did. Custom suits for Ethan and the groomsmen, $3,200. Maddie's dress, $2,600. Champagne fountain rental, $1,400. And get this, flower wall photo booth, $1,000. Plus dozens of smaller charges for things like engraved party favors and hand calligraphed menus. Like seriously, who was this wedding for? Royals? The final estimate, $20,000 plus, easily. Gone. Just like that. All the money that was supposed to help me build a life, funneled into a one-night spectacle I wasn't even welcome at. I wish I could say I yelled, threw something, slammed a door, but all I did was cry. I sat like that for hours. I woke up the next morning with this weird clarity, like I'd cried all the panic out of my system and what was left was this calm, quiet fire. I didn't talk to my parents that day. I didn't even go downstairs. Instead, I emailed the financial aid office again and asked about emergency funding options. The woman who replied, bless her, actually gave me a list of things to try: emergency grant application, late work-study enrollment, last-minute campus housing forms, etc. It wasn't much, but it was something. I'd need to come in person within the week, which meant I needed to get to campus and I needed to pay something up front, even just enough to register and hold my spot. I had $437 in my bank account, so I made a plan. I sold my iPad, listed all my art supplies that I wasn't taking to school, put together a spreadsheet of every sellable thing in my room: shoes, bags, my barely used curling iron, even that pair of Doc Martens I loved but didn't really wear. Next, I started calling in favors. My friend Leah let me crash at her cousin's place near campus for free, at least for the first month. I got a short-term job through a local coffee shop that needed help during move-in weekend. It paid under the table. I didn't care. It was cash. I cashed in every little favor, coupon, side hustle, gig app, you name it. Meanwhile, my parents were too busy finalizing the reception playlist to notice. Or maybe they noticed and just didn't care. And that's when the choice came to me. If they could choose Ethan's wedding over my future, I could choose my future over them. So I packed my bags early, didn't say goodbye, left a note on the counter that said, going to figure out my life. I'm not mad, but I'm not coming back either. Then I got on a bus to campus with a duffel bag, $112 in cash, and a fire in my chest that wouldn't go out. That first week was rough. I slept on an air mattress, ate protein bars and free event pizza, but every single day I woke up with a purpose. Every email I sent, every office I visited, every favor I asked, it was for me, for my future, for that girl in high school who used to sketch outfits in the margins of her chem homework and dream about designing them for real. And then, 3 weeks later, just when I'd scraped together enough to get through the semester, I got the text. It was from my mom. Just said, "We need to talk. Please call us. Your dad is very upset. We didn't know it would go this far. No apology." I didn't respond. That's when the calls started. Voicemails, emails. Even Maddie tried to message me saying I was being too harsh and family means forgiveness. Like, come on, girl. You spent my future on charcuterie boards and twinkle lights and didn't even send me a cupcake from the dessert table, and now you want to talk? Yeah. No, I wasn't having it. But don't worry. They'd get a response soon enough. Just not the one they expected. 2 weeks into college, I was sitting on the grimy twin mattress in Leah's cousin's guest room, still surviving off granola bars and campus leftovers, when I opened Reddit and just started typing. No thinking. Just this pure energy pouring out of me like, screw it. Someone needs to hear this. I titled the post, "My parents used my college fund to pay for my brother's wedding and didn't even invite me, so I left and now they're begging me to come home." Yep, that was the whole vibe. I laid out everything in the post, from the Aspen nonsense to the champagne fountain, down to the exact quote from my mom. "It's just money, sweetie." All that stuff. I hit post, then turned my phone off. I figured I'd get a few upvotes, maybe a comment or two like, "Oof, that's so unfair," and that would be it. But the next morning, my phone was blowing up. The post had hit the front page of True Off My Chest. By noon, it had over 30,000 upvotes, hundreds of comments. People were tagging me in subreddits like insane parents. Someone messaged me asking if they could animate the story for their YouTube channel. The wild part? Someone sent it to my parents. Yeah, I don't know who. Maybe a friend. Maybe a distant cousin. But someone found the post, connected the dots. The wedding photos Maddie posted were very public, mind you, and forwarded the link to my mom. I found out because at 3:42 p.m. I got a text from my dad that just said, "You embarrassed this family. Call me immediately." I ignored the text. 2 minutes later, a voicemail from my mom. She was crying, full-on "why would you do this to us" mode. Not crying because of what they did to me. Crying because now people knew about it. 'Cause Reddit had their receipts, and suddenly they weren't the golden parents anymore. And then, and this is where it gets so insane, Maddie made a public post on her Instagram story. Public story, not a close friends one. It's really sad when people try to ruin happy moments because they're bitter about someone else's success. Not everything is about you. Some of us worked hard for our wedding, with a picture of her and Ethan kissing under a flower arch looking like a Crate and Barrel ad. Worked hard? Girl, my money was literally under your heels on that aisle runner. Anyway, I stayed quiet. For like 3 days. Let them sit with the consequences for once. But the more messages I got, from old friends, cousins, even some of Ethan's high school buddies saying stuff like, "I always knew your parents played favorites," the more I realized, this wasn't just about tuition. This was about a pattern. A whole lifetime of being the second thought. But here's where things really started unraveling. Because while I was thriving in survival mode, piecing my semester together with duct tape and hope, my parents' perfect little image was cracking. My aunt, my mom's sister, called me. She'd seen the post and was livid. She told me she'd asked my mom point blank if it was true. Guess what my mom said? We assumed she'd be fine. She's always been independent, as if that made it okay. And my aunt? She didn't buy it. She offered to help me. Said she had a guest room, a car I could borrow, even a little scholarship fund her husband left when he passed, and I lost it. Someone actually saw me. Meanwhile, back at the Maddie mansion of delusion, things were falling apart. Someone, and again I have no idea who, dug up a screenshot of Maddie's post and compared it with my Reddit post in the comments. People started piecing together timelines, family photos, LinkedIn updates, yes, my mom brags on LinkedIn about her kids, and realized the story wasn't just some made-up Reddit bait. It was real. And suddenly Ethan and Maddie started getting tagged in Wedding of the Year, Thief of the Decade memes. People were clowning them in the comments like, imagine spending someone else's tuition money on a champagne fountain and not even inviting them. Wedding guests, 150. Family members invited, 149. The one who paid for it, 0. And I know it's petty, but bro, I'm not even gonna lie. It felt good. But now my parents were panicking. I got another call, this time from my dad's work number. Apparently someone at his office recognized the story and showed it to his boss. My dad said he was being harassed. I said, now you know how it feels. So when they finally really tried to reach me, not to scold me but to apologize, I was already gone. I was just done. But I wasn't gonna disappear. Not before giving them the full picture of what they'd done, and exactly why I wasn't coming back. Because if they wanted closure, they were gonna have to earn it. So the apology, if you can even call it that, came on a Thursday night right after midterms, which by the way I somehow crushed despite living off caffeine and spite. I had just finished a group project where I carried the entire team, shocker, and I was on the floor of my shared apartment folding laundry when my phone lit up. Mom. Followed immediately by Dad, then a voicemail, then a text, then another. I ignored the first few, but then curiosity got the better of me. I figured if they were still this desperate to talk, maybe, just maybe, they finally understood what they did. Spoiler, they didn't. But the way I handled it? Yeah, that part still makes me proud. The text that broke me just enough to call back wasn't from my mom or dad. It was from my grandma. Sweetheart, please talk to your parents. I don't know what's going on, but your mom's been crying every day. I love you. I hadn't even told her. She wasn't online, wasn't on Reddit. She had no clue. And now she was caught in the middle of something that she didn't cause but somehow was being forced to carry. So I called. My mom answered on the second ring like she'd been sitting there waiting with her phone in her hand. Oh, thank God. Honey, we've been so worried. I cut her off. I'm fine. Silence. Then my dad chimed in from the background, all stiff and formal. We just want to talk. Clear the air. Clear the air? 'Cause this was just a miscommunication, right? I stayed quiet for a moment, just listening. And that silence must have freaked them out because then my mom really started laying it on thick. We didn't realize how much this meant to you. We thought you'd understand. We had to make a choice and we thought you were strong enough to be okay. No, you thought I was disposable. My voice didn't even rise. I wasn't yelling. I didn't need to. Quiet hit harder. You knew I wouldn't fight. You knew I wouldn't scream. You picked the kid who wouldn't make a scene and gutted her future because it was convenient. Because it made Ethan look good. They tried to interrupt, but I didn't let them. You didn't just take money. You took everything that money represented. My work, my hope, my belief that I mattered enough to you to be protected. Silence. Then a sniffle. We're sorry, honey. We were just trying to help your brother. Help him? Bro. That's when the old me would have cried. But not anymore. Help him? He's 26. He doesn't pay rent. He works 3 hours a week and still complains he's tired. You rewarded that with a $20,000 party while I was rationing shampoo so I could afford to print my syllabus. More silence. Do you even know where I'm living right now? Do you know how I'm paying for food? I have blisters from walking to a grocery store that sells day-old bread for 80 cents. Meanwhile, Ethan got a chocolate fondue fountain and a drone videographer. No answer. And then, because the universe has a dark sense of humor, my mom said, we didn't invite you because we didn't want to hurt your feelings. Excuse me? I nearly laughed. You stole my education and thought sparing me from shrimp cocktail was going to soften the blow? I didn't even know what to say anymore. It was like they were still clinging to the fantasy that if they just said, we're sorry enough, I'd sweep it all under the rug. That I'd come home, hug it out, be the good daughter again. But here's the thing about rugs. Eventually, if you keep sweeping things under them, they start to stink. I took a deep breath and said, I'm not coming back. They both started talking at once. The panic was real now. We'll pay you back. We'll take out a loan. This has gone too far. But I cut in calm and clear. No, you won't pay me back. Because you can't. It was trust. It was belief. And you don't get that back with interest. They begged. They cried. But I had already decided. I told them they could contact me through email from now on, for emergencies only. And then I hung up. After that, I blocked their numbers. Cold? Maybe. Okay, so remember when I said my grandparents started the college fund? Yeah, well, turns out that was only one of the things they started. Because a couple of weeks after I cut contact with my parents, I got this random letter in the mail. Not an email, not a text, a legit envelope with my name on it in old school cursive. No return address, just a postmark from the next state over. I opened it on my way to class, half expecting some sketchy ad or alumni newsletter, and inside was a handwritten note from my grandpa's lawyer. My grandpa passed away when I was 13 and I was super close with him. He used to call me kiddo and was always the only one in my family who actually asked about school and listened when I talked about my dreams. Even after he passed, I'd sometimes find little notes he'd written on the backs of old receipts tucked in my sketchbooks. Keep going, kiddo, or design the life you want. I still have one pinned to my wall. Anyway, the letter said, per the terms of your late grandfather's trust, you are entitled to access a custodial savings account in your name, to be released upon your 19th birthday. My hand shaking on the sidewalk, rereading that line like 5 times. I had just turned 19 a month ago. This was new. So I made the call. The lawyer answered. And y'all, the way my heart nearly beat out of my chest when he confirmed it, the account had just under $15,000. And it had been sitting there, waiting. He said my parents should have informed me when I turned 19, but apparently they just didn't. Either out of negligence or, let's be real, because they hoped I'd never find out. I was stunned. I think I said, "Are you sure this isn't a mistake?" like 3 times. He laughed and said, "It's not a fortune, but it's enough for a smart kid like you to make some real moves." And I swear, right then and there, standing outside my 8 a.m. class in a hoodie and secondhand jeans, I felt like the universe finally threw me a bone. What I did, I walked straight to the financial aid office on campus, withdrew my emergency request, and paid my remaining tuition in full. Then I secured housing for the spring semester, picked up a used laptop that didn't crash every 20 minutes, and finally exhaled. Like fully. No more loan applications. No more grocery store panic. For the first time in months, I could just breathe. And then I started building. I reached out to a professor I really admired in the design department and asked about assistantship opportunities. She got me in touch with a small nonprofit that needed branding help. Paid work, too. Nothing major, but enough to build my portfolio. I picked up an extra shift at the cafe where I worked, not because I had to, but because I wanted to keep stacking my savings. And most importantly, I started designing again. Like for real. Not just sketching on napkins or posting inspo boards. I started mapping out an actual line. Pieces that reflected me, what I'd been through, what I'd survived, what I was growing into. Felt like reclaiming every piece of myself that had been trampled during wedding season. But of course, the second the money hit my bank account, my parents reached out. Like, "We're glad to hear you're okay. We want to explain our side. Please understand we never meant to hurt you. Let's talk about rebuilding our relationship." They even had the audacity to say, "Now that you're financially stable again, we hope you'll reconsider cutting ties." Now that I'm stable again. Not, "We're sorry we made you unstable in the first place." Just, "Cool, you're okay again, so let's pretend this never happened." The only reason they wanted me back was because I wasn't desperate anymore. I'd proven that I could survive, and that scared them. So I did the one thing they never expected. I replied to their email. 3 lines. "Thanks for reaching out. I'm doing well. I'm not ready to rebuild anything, but I'll let you know if that changes. Sincerely, your independent daughter." I never got a reply, but I didn't care because I was finally free. So, remember Ethan and Maddie? The golden couple. The ones who got the $20,000 fairy tale wedding funded by my future? Yeah, well, surprise, surprise. Their happily ever after started unraveling before the thank you cards were even sent. And how did I find out? Let me set the scene. It was a random Tuesday, and I was at the coffee shop where I work part-time. I had just frothed a latte so perfect it looked like art, and I was on my break scrolling mindlessly through Instagram when I got a DM from Alyssa, Ethan's ex. And no, we're not close. Honestly, I barely knew her in high school. But she's always been one of those watching from the sidelines with popcorn-type girls who never misses drama. Her message just said, "Hey, not sure if you've seen Maddie's latest IG story. Thought you might be interested." Y'all, I didn't even breathe as I opened it. And there she was, Maddie, on her IG story, alone, sitting in a dimly lit bedroom, not their Aspen honeymoon suite, not some airy newlywed dream house. Just a regular, messy room, no filter, mascara smudged, and eyes puffy. She was sniffling, clearly had been crying, and the caption said, "Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're too sensitive. You're not too much, they're just not enough. Bro." I immediately clicked through the rest of her story. It was a carousel of cryptic quotes. "Some people don't deserve the version of you that fights to stay. Protect your peace, even from people you love. If he wanted to, he would." Oof, somebody was in full meltdown mode. And then came the big one, a black screen with white text. "Sometimes the ones you marry just want an audience, not a partner." Yikes. Naturally, I did what anyone with common sense and a healthy interest in karma would do. I texted Leah and said, "Maddie's spiraling. I'm watching it like it's HBO. Now, I'm not proud of this next part. Okay, maybe just a bit. I might have made some popcorn and gone full social media sleuth." And the deeper I looked, the clearer it got. Ethan and Maddie were falling apart. First, the photos of them together? Gone. All wiped from her grid. Every last Aspen shot. Even the dramatic kiss under the antler chandelier. Poof. Deleted. Then I checked his page. He still had the wedding pics up, but with 0 new content since. No captions. No comments allowed. Just frozen in that fantasy moment. It was giving trying to keep up appearances while everything is crumbling behind closed doors. And then, the DMs started rolling in. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who noticed. A few of Maddie's mutuals messaged me, again, people I hadn't talked to in years, saying things like, "So, I heard from someone who went to high school with Maddie's cousin." And y'all, the tea was piping hot. Turns out, the Aspen wedding had drained way more than just my college fund. Ethan and Maddie had racked up over $12,000 in credit card debt. They'd maxed out 2 cards in just 3 months, trying to keep up the luxury lifestyle for Maddie's followers, rented Airbnbs, designer shoes, spa weekends, you name it. And when reality hit, they started fighting. Hard. Maddie's influencer side hustle wasn't paying the bills. Ethan's freelance gigs dried up because, shocker, he kept missing deadlines and blaming the algorithm. They moved in with her mom. His ego couldn't handle it. And by the time Maddie started venting on her stories, they were basically roommates who hated each other. One source said Maddie caught Ethan texting another girl. Another said Maddie had already moved her stuff out. It was all hearsay, yeah, but honestly, tracked. Because people like Ethan, they don't know how to live in the real world. Not when everything's not handed to them on a monogrammed silver platter. And I know I should have felt bad. Like I should have been the bigger person. Felt some compassion. Said, "Oh no, their marriage is in trouble, how tragic." But you know what I felt? Relief. Because for the first time in forever, the story flipped. I wasn't the struggling one anymore. I wasn't the embarrassment or the burden or the strong one who'll figure it out. They were. And I was just out here living my best broke but thriving art school girl life. I kept all of this to myself. Didn't post about it. Didn't message Maddie. Didn't throw shade online. 'Cause the ultimate power move? Peace. And when you finally taste it after a lifetime of being minimized, overlooked, and walked over, oh, it's better than any champagne toast. But just when I thought the storm had passed, the final blow came. A letter. Handwritten. From my mom. I swear to you, just when I thought my parents couldn't possibly surprise me anymore, my mom came out of left field with a plot twist that was so completely delusional, I had to read it out loud to Leah just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Let me walk you through this disaster. It showed up in my mailbox on a Thursday. A real envelope. Cream-colored. Loopy handwriting. No return address, but I'd know that cursive M anywhere. The scent of her perfume was clinging to it too, that overly floral headache-in-a-bottle kind she wears on every holiday. I almost didn't open it. Honestly, I considered tossing it. But curiosity won. And y'all, the first line? "Sweetheart, I know we haven't always seen eye to eye." The letter went on for 3 whole pages. 3 pages of, "We were under pressure to make Ethan's wedding special. You were always the strong one. We never imagined you'd go public with family matters." Oh yeah, she brought up the Reddit post. Didn't name it, but you could tell she was still bitter. She even wrote, "Some things are better kept private, don't you think? Ma'am, you spent my college fund on canapes and didn't even send me a thank you note. You don't get to lecture me about boundaries now." But here's the best part. The end of page 3, she finally got to the point. "Your brother and Maddie are going through a hard time right now. Things aren't as stable as we hoped. Ethan has been struggling emotionally and we're very worried about him. With everything happening, we were hoping you might consider coming home for a while, just until things calm down. It would mean a lot to Ethan to have his sister back. Family needs to come together during times like this. Bro, this woman just asked me to come home, not because she missed me, but because my brother's marriage is falling apart and he needs emotional support. The same brother who got a wedding funded by my college money and excluded me from his special day. That's the one I'm supposed to come home for? You gotta be kidding me. I genuinely thought it was a prank." I showed the letter to Leah and she straight up choked on her ramen noodles. We spent the next 15 minutes going back and forth reading sections in fake dramatic voices. "We didn't mean to hurt you, but we just had to have a champagne tower, honey. I know you're living off granola bars, but your brother needed engraved shot glasses. I know it sounds petty, but honestly, laughter was the only thing keeping me from crying again. So I wrote a letter back. Yep, handwritten. Here's what I said. "Dear Mom, thank you for your letter. I understand that things are hard right now, but I'm not coming home. I have my own life now, one that I built without your support, without your funding, and without your approval. You taught me to be the strong one. Well, here she is. Please don't contact me unless it's to offer a sincere apology and take accountability for what happened. I'm not angry anymore, just done. Sincerely, the daughter who paid for her own future while you were picking out monogram napkins." That was the day I fully, completely, emotionally moved on. But the story doesn't quite end there, because the universe? She's got a sense of humor, as you know. And just when I thought I was done with all of it, no more family drama, no more secondhand heartbreak, I got a call from a lawyer. It was short, polite. He said he represented the estate of a family member and needed to discuss a matter related to a recent revision in a private will. First, I thought maybe it was some spam call or worse, a scam. But the name he gave? Mrs. Marion Ford. My grandmother. Dad's mom. Now listen, we weren't close. Not in a bad way, more like politely distant. She lived 2 hours away, wore linen all year round, and always smelled faintly of lavender and antique furniture. She was one of those old money but discreet types who sent you birthday cards with $20 and a sticky note that said, "For books only." I hadn't seen her in almost a year, but apparently, she'd seen everything. When I called the lawyer back, he confirmed it. "Your grandmother amended her will recently. She passed last month. I blinked, sat down, processed that in total silence. He continued, "You were listed in the revised version, and she requested that I reach out to you directly, separate from the rest of the family." Separate? That word sat heavy in my chest. He asked if we could set up a time to go over the details, and I said yes, obviously. We scheduled a virtual meeting for Friday morning. I barely slept the night before. I didn't even know what I was expecting. But what I got was so much more than money. Friday comes. I'm logged in a wrinkled hoodie with a half-eaten granola bar on my desk, hair in a messy bun, trying not to look like I'm unraveling from finals week. And this lawyer, super kind older guy, starts walking me through it. Turns out my grandma had watched everything unfold from a distance. She knew about the wedding. She'd seen the Reddit post. She didn't say anything, not to my dad, not to my mom, but she read every word. She left me a letter, a trust account, and a message she asked the lawyer to read out loud during the meeting. The message? To my granddaughter. "I always admired your quiet strength. I see now it wasn't just quiet, it was overlooked. And you deserved so much better. I hope this helps you continue building the life they tried to take from you. Don't look back. They'll always need you more than you need them. Love, Grandma Marion." I lost it. Right there. On camera. Crying like a little kid. Then came the shocker. The trust fund? $48,000. And get this, she removed my dad entirely from her will. Every penny she would have left him was redirected to a local scholarship fund, in my name, the Ford Future Creators Grant, an annual $5,000 scholarship for first-gen art and design students. I sat there speechless while the lawyer read that part like it was the weather report. My grandma, the linen-wearing, lavender-scented, book-only cash-gifting woman I barely knew, had just handed me the last word. And my dad? He had no idea yet. I won't lie. I was tempted to be petty, to print a copy of the will and mail it to my parents with a note that just said, "Oops," but I didn't. I used the money to pay off the small student loan I'd taken when I was desperate. I upgraded my laptop, got a nicer apartment closer to campus. I even started a capsule clothing line, something I'd been dreaming of since high school. 10 pieces. All original designs. Minimalist. Durable. Purposeful. I named the line Kiddo, after what my grandpa used to call me. Applications for the scholarship launch next spring. I'm designing the logo now. And when I look at the website mock-up, it hits me all over again. I made it. People always say living well is the best revenge, right? But they're wrong. Living free is. Living with peace. With purpose. So no, I haven't spoken to my parents. Not since the letter. Not since the will. They know what happened by now, I know they do. I heard from a cousin that my dad tried to contest the will. It didn't work. And me? I'm just here. Making art. Eating regular food. Laughing with friends. Sleeping through the night without wondering who I've disappointed. I don't have a perfect life, but it's mine, and nobody can take it from me again.